All right, so next up we have to basically reduce and kind of trim or split or cut out the floor plate within the volume. So the volume itself, if I turn that back on, you see it exists intersecting a few of the floor plates that we actually have. I'm going to bump this up one more too. There we go. You don't have to. So I only bumped it up because I didn't want a floor plate that was like right at my top level or very, very close to, just inside. I wanted to make sure that it at least went a somewhat full building height. Anyway, so what we've got to do is isolate the surface that intersects the volume itself. And the ideas that you had while we were on break here was to trim it, which you could trim it, but then the volumes, or the regions, I should say, the surfaces that don't intersect the volume are still going to remain because they're not coincident with the volume itself. Well, potentially anyway. It depends on a few things. You could split it, but then some volumes are not going to be split, some of them will be, and you wouldn't be able to control which list the split ones got put into. And anyway, so the easiest way, in my opinion, is to use the Intersect panel. So under the Intersect panel and under Physical, what you can do here is brep, brep. And the way that this is going to work is it's basically just going to take your first list of breps, which would be either the array or the volume itself. So I'm going to kind of pull this down here. And actually what I'm going to do is create a wireless connection. So right here, I'm going to take my base volume, and I'm going to call this base volume. And then make this wireless so I can pull it up here. So my base volume and my arrayed floor plates, when I plug those in, what they give me is a list of curves where those volumes and surfaces intersect. So I want to pose the question to you all right now while you're kind of catching up. Why is this more efficient? We looked at, or we considered trimming, we considered splitting, but why is this going to be more efficient for us going forward? True, but so the split and the trim would as well. Think about your data management, right? If you split something, what's going to happen is you're going to have the you're going to have one side of the split and you're going to have the other side of the split. That geometry is still going to exist and have to calculate. In this case, what it does is it only gives you the curves where it intersects, and everything else is no longer considered moving forward. So it doesn't have to recalculate the split and anything that's inside and outside being produced as a list. Generally speaking, you don't have to worry so much about that. It's just more efficient for you visually. Computationally, it's fine. It's negligible. But anyway, so what we've got are list of curves, and I essentially can just create a surface off of those using surface boundary. So under, oh, this is also from Intersect and Physical. That's a new one. I'll tag it. So under the surface menu and under the freeform tab, sorry. Under the freeform tab, because these are all created using edge curves, we can use boundary surfaces, potentially edge surfaces, I'm not sure about that one, but boundary surfaces for sure, and just plug this in, and then when I turn all this other stuff off, you'll see that it has generated my floor plates, or at least a flat plane plate for the floor plates themselves. So what's next? A floor plate needs what? Thickness, yes, thank you. So unlike the exterior walls, this one is going to be just an extrude because it's a vertical constant. There will be very few times where you're trying to create a floor plate thickness that I guess is going to have to be a compound extrusion or some kind of volumetric design. And if you do have to do that, then it's going to be part of your massing and volumetric design. Okay, so it's not quite the same as a regular repetitive floor plate like this. So the simple way to create these floor plates is really just to extrude them all at the same time. So I'm going to go to Transform and, Surface and Freeform. And I'm going to use Extrude. So I will be extruding the boundary surfaces, and it's going to request a direction, which is going to come as direction and magnitude. So since this is a vertical constant, I can use under vector and vector the unit z again. So when I plug in unit z, you see that it goes upwards, which in many cases is okay. In some cases you want it to go down. That part, I guess, is up to you to figure out if you want it to go up or down, depending on your design and alignments. But for right now, that's going to be just fine. But I want to make sure that I can adjust it. So I'm going to create a slider from, say, 0 to 48. Usually, if I'm going to work in inches, anywhere from 0 to 48 is going to serve just about all of my purposes. So I do that a lot. So that's under... well, let me make the slider first. So 0 is less than 48. And then we have to convert that to inches since our model is in feet. So we need to do our division. Divide that by 12. Then we can plug that in there. So if I want it to be just 9 inches or 8 inches or something like that, then that's going to do it for me. All right, so we've developed quite a bit so far. This is for our floor plates and our massing. What questions do you have right now?
Which
yes.
Division to unit Z? Okay.
Division? Oh, that, yeah. Yeah, I plugged it into the unit Z. That's the magnitude component of our direction. Any other questions?
Where did you get the base volume? The BV?
The base volume came from the capped overall building volume. So all I did was create a geometry param. I plugged it in and I just named it base volume. Do you know how to do that? You need to see it again? All right, so you just go to geometry here. And the reason I used geometry is because it houses any type of geometry. It's pretty versatile. So I just dropped it in like this. It's going to come in as geo. And when I plug the geometry in, it still says geo, but it has the volume in it. And so I just need to right-click it and change the name up here. Okay? Any other questions? Yes?
Why you connect the geometry from the cap to not from the item? Because the item, you can choose the surface.
What? Why? Sorry, rephrase the question.
Why you plug the geometry to the cap there? Do not plug to the item, because the item you can choose the different surface, and you say you want a base surface.
Why did I plug this in here instead of into item?
Yes, item is you can choose the different surface, right?
Oh, so no, the item is actually just the
The surface.
face at the bottom.
But you want all the whole face.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
guys, I'm still recording. So the reason I plugged this into cap is because I'm using my entire exterior volume as a trimming or cutting or isolating or intersecting surface. So wherever these intersect that volume, that's what's generating the curve. If I just selected the bottom one, then it wouldn't generate any curves because they don't intersect. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and start working on the exterior wall.